Hello, everyone, and a very good day. Thank you all for joining in today's webinar sponsored by Edits and Right. Today's webinar's topic is integrating demand-side solutions for accelerated decarbonization of power supply system, insights from Bangladesh and Thailand. And for this very interesting topic, we have our speaker, Firuz Ahmed Nahid. He's a postdoc researcher at Asian Institute of Technology, Thailand. And I'm Jubair Sieed from Right. I shall be moderating today's session. So before going into the details, let me first introduce the EDITS project a little bit. EDITS stand for Energy Demand Changes Induced by Technological and Social Innovations. This project is coordinated by the Research Institute of Innovative Technology for the Earth, RITE, and the International Institute for Applied Systems Analysis, IASA. And it is funded by the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry, METI, from Japan. Now we are at the 5th or 6th year of EDITS, and so far we are growing community. There is more than around 200 researchers very deeply involved with this project. And our main objectives are listed here. Just to make it simple, the objective of EDITS is to create a research community with a focus on end-use demand-side perspectives that further dialogue and cross-fertilization of research and policy analysis through the sharing of novel data, novel concepts, methodologies, and policy analysis. Also to improve the state of the art of demand modeling in environmental and climate policy analysis via methods and model intercomparisons, and assisting the transfer of conceptual and methodological improvements across disciplines, sectors, and environmental domains, and also to better inform policy via structured model experiments and simulants that assess potential impacts, barriers, as well as synergies and trade-offs to other SDG objectives of demand-side policy interventions, particularly in novel fields and service provision models such as digitalization, sharing economy, or the integration of SDG and climate objectives in synergistic policy design. So without further ado, we'd like to go to the presentation directly. Just before going there, let me clarify the question answer and ways. So by default, your audio and videos will be deactivated. So if you need to intervene or ask any questions, the best way is to, you can just write down your questions or comments in the chat box. You can do it even during the presentation. And at the end, if you want to speak up, please raise your hand, use the raise your hand feature at the bottom of the screen, and I will let you speak up. So we'll have around 30 to 40 minutes of presentation from Firuz, and then we will directly move on to the Q&A sessions. So let me welcome Firuz for the very interesting presentation. The floor is yours, Firuz.
Well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me to this webinar as a speaker, and I'm really glad to be here today to speak on the topic, the integration of demand-side solutions for accelerated decarbonizations of power supply systems. We did this work for the context of Bangladesh and Thailand, and the entire modeling tasks has been done in smart centers at Asian Institute of Technology. So as we start, let me give you a brief idea that over the next 30 minutes, what I am going to talk. So first, I'll be giving you an idea about the overview of the electricity sectors of these two countries, followed by the power sector policies, especially in the last 2 decades. What are the major policies in demand side as well as into the supply side? And then there will be a review of electricity sector modeling studies, that what sorts of model has been practiced in these countries for electricity sector expansion studies, and what sorts of technologies they have covered, whether there is any demand side aspects in the modeling or not. So those will be covered. And then I will be presenting the modeling that we have developed in Smarts. We have customized basically, which is based on PyPSA framework, and we named it as PyPSA Bangladesh and Thailand IDS, which stands for Integrated Demand and Supply. And then I'll be giving you an idea that what sorts of data we do need to, run this model and how this model works, as well as the scenarios, which are basically, you can say, the constraints and targets of the models and the results. So let's see the electricity sector overview of just a minute. Okay, so the electricity sector overview of these two countries as well as the world. So if you look at the status of the world's electricity generation by the end of 2024, we see that the world is around 30,000 terawatt hour. It's the generation capacity is around 30,000 terawatt hour, mostly coming from coal, followed by gas and other renewables. Now, let's say if we talk about the country Bangladesh, its contribution to the global electricity generation is only 0.36%. And most of it is coming from gas, because Bangladesh has local gas reserves, so it focuses on gas. And recently, in the last 5 years, coal is started contributing to the power sector. And in terms of renewable, Bangladesh generates only 2% of its power from the renewables. If we look at Thailand, the contribution into the global electricity generation for Thailand is around 0.67%, which is dominated by gas. But historically, coal was there into the Thailand's generation, but not at that significant portions. And recently, the renewable generation in Thailand is approximately 14.5%. Now, if we have a look at the per capita power generation, if we look at the global scale, by the end of 2024, the global per capita power generation is around 3.78 megawatt hour, mostly coming from coal. Now, if we compare the number with Thailand, Thailand's per capita consumption is around 27% lower than the world average. But if we look at Bangladesh, the per capita generation is almost 83% lower than global average. So it shows that the consumption in Bangladesh is far lower compared to the global average, as well as if you compared with Thailand as well, Bangladesh consumes a lot. Bangladesh, the per capita power generation is very low. But both of these countries, Thailand and Bangladesh, are developing countries, and it is expected that over the next 2-3 decades, the economic expansion will happen, and also these two countries' power generation capability will increase. And it is expected that both of these countries will include more renewables into their generation mix. At this stage, if we look both of these countries, the per capita generation is dominated by natural gas. Then if we have a look at the sectoral emissions in both of these countries, the power sector dominates the emissions, which is followed by industrial combustions. In Thailand, a significant emission also comes from the transport sectors. So this also gives us an idea that why we should focus on power sector, decarbonization to lead towards a cleaner future. Now, let's have a look at what are the major power sector policies has been taken in Bangladesh. So here, the policies are of the last 2 decades. So if we look at the policies in Bangladesh in 2005, the first power sector master plan was implemented. And the target was that by 2025, 22 gigawatt of capacity should be added into the grid, which Bangladesh did. But the plan was on the dominated by gas. But as you know that the gas reserves are depleted. So in 2010, the target has been revised, where by 2030, 34 gigawatt of power capacity has been targeted. And in 2010, the plan has been revised to shift the focus with coal dominance. So the target was around 50% of coal dominance would be into the generation mix. Now, in 2016, it has been further revised based on the energy efficiency and conversion master plan. In 2016, the demand side, the demand side priority has been implemented in Bangladesh, and it has been targeted that by 2030, into the demand, 20% energy efficiency would be implemented. And through this, the target is by 2030, at least 16% lower energy consumption would be there compared to the business as usual scenarios. And at that time, it is also politicized that the enforced and mandatory energy audits should be there, and the leveling programs would be there for large consumers and appliances. In the meantime, in 2012, the SHREDA, which is Sustainable and Renewable Energy and Development Authority, was given the mandates to set the standards, manage the incentives, and coordinate national energy conversion strategy to promote more renewable and efficiency programs. So lately in 2023, the Integrated Energy and Power Sector Master Plan has been implemented, which gives us pathways for 40% clean energy targets by 2041. And this policy also gives us a net zero pathway somewhere in 2070. Now, this policy, it emphasizes on solar, wind, nuclears, and it shows that the reduced dependence on coal and gas, and it promotes the energy efficiency and advanced grid technologies. So overall, if we see the policies of Bangladesh, this is both a combination of demand side priority as well as supply side expansion. So both are now prioritized in Bangladesh, and power sector, in our research, we will later show that how we can implement both these demand side and supply side policies. Now, if we look at Thailand prioritized the demand side solutions in 2011 through their energy efficiency development plan. On 2011, the target was that by 2030, 25% energy intensity reduction would be happened compared to 2005 levels, where the focus would be energy conversions and efficiency improvement through industry, transport, and buildings. Now, the same plan has been updated in 2015, which is energy efficiency plan, and it says that around 30% energy intensity reduction would be there by 2036. So this is an updated version of 2011's plan. Now, in 2015, Thailand came up with the Power Development Plan, which targets up to 2036. And it says that in the power mix, around 15 to 20% renewable energies should be there. And also there will be some integration with the ASEAN power grids or power markets. In 2018, there was a policy called Alternative Energy Development Plan, which targets 30% renewable energy into the share by 2037. And they had some specific targets for solar, wind, and biomasses. Now, in 2021, the long-term low emission development strategy was taken, which shows that by 2050, Thailand targets a carbon neutrality, and by 2065, a net zero. Now, these policies are taken by focusing on renewables, energy efficiency, and transportation electrification. And in 2024, the Power Development Plan has been revised, and it is into the draft stage, which says that by 2037, 51% of renewable energy should be there into the generation mix. A priority will be given on solar with storages, and wind and biomass for grid stability. Now, one interesting fact about Thailand is that Thailand has quite a good amount of biomass potentials, and by 2037, the official potential shown is around 25 gigawatts of capacity. And also into this policy, they introduced the direct power purchase agreements to promote, private sector's participation into the renewable sector. So overall, we see that Thailand has realized the importance of demand side solutions since 2011. They have taken measures and set their targets to implement energy efficiency into the system, which is a demand side solution, and also they have their own target into the supply side as well. Now let's have a look at the studies which has been done in Bangladesh. So we found that there are several studies that talks about the power sector expansions. And first, our target was to see that what sorts of technology they have used, whether they have implemented the demand side measures or not. So we found that most of the studies do not talk about the demand side measures in Bangladesh. They mostly focus on capacity expansions to the utilizations of renewable energies. And if we look at the coverage of this model, we found that almost all of the models focused on national scale. Only one study that covered a local scale, which was a provincial scale. And most of the study covered only electricity sector. Other sectors such as transports, industry, residential, agriculture was rarely covered. In terms of time horizon, we found that the models covered from short term towards long term scenarios. In terms of low carbon technologies, we found the most applications we found of hydro, solar, and wind. A few studies covered nuclear as well, and a few studies included the biomass energies. And in terms of storage, we see the most of the study included the battery. A few talks about, only one study talks about hydrogen, but storages such as pumped hydro storage or compressed air or thermal energy storage were not found into the modeling studies except one study. Similarly, for Thailand, while we were looking at the studies, we found that the energy efficiency as a demand side measures has been included into the modeling studies. Most of the studies in Thailand we found are AIM models. And we found that here in Thailand also, all the models are of national scale, and it covers sectors like electricity, sectors like transport, industries, and the time horizon, as like Bangladesh, we found the application from short term to long terms. And in terms of storages, hydrogen was found as a storage technology for Thailand studies. One study with the Leon batteries. And in terms of low carbon technologies, hydro has been utilized, solar, wind, and as the Thailand also prioritized, biomass also found. So for Thailand, no nuclear application has been found, and also in Thailand's national plan, there is no big application of nuclear has been found. Only a few small scale modular reactors applications is there. So we found that the applications of nuclear are rarely modeled for the case of Thailand. So if we summarize the review for these two countries, we see that although Thailand has the application of energy efficiency, which is a demand side measure into the study. However, demand side solutions like demand side flexibility is not there, because many of the study they have mentioned that into the modeling they found curtailments from solar, they have curtailments from wind, and this is a loss of generation. So a demand side flexibility could have a better option into the demand side measure. Same for Bangladesh, although one study we found with energy efficiency, but we didn't see any sorts of demand side flexibility into the models. So based on these reviews and the status of the countries and the policies, let us see that what we did as part of the electricity sector model. So what research questions we had taken. So we tried to see that how does an integration of demand side measures such as energy efficiency and demand side flexibility with supply side capacity expansion through our modeling framework can impact the optimal capacity trajectories as well as the emissions. And we compare our results with the supply only planning so that we can identify what is the influence or what is the importance of integrating demand side solutions into the system. And then over this transition, how much storage is needed and how it is going to support the renewable energy technologies or more renewables into the system. And finally, most of the our study quantifies the socio-economical implications. For example, the financial resource mobilizations, the land footprint, the electricity affordability, and the job creation potentials over short to long-term time horizons. Now, into the studies that we reviewed, the studies rarely include these socioeconomic implications into their studies. Now, in terms of, if you say that what are our contribution through this modeling studies, so we say that we developed this model, which is PyPSA-BD or Thailand IDS, which are an open source country specific model that integrates both demand and supply side interventions to develop short, medium, and long-term scenarios towards 100% clean electricity pathway. It co-optimizes both capacity investment and dispatch under operational and policy constraints, which these policy constraints and operational constraints we design based on our scenarios. We produce a least cost expansion pathway for long-term power sector planning in both of these countries. And we provide publicly accessible data because, as we said, this model are open source. So we make the data open source through GitHub. And it ensures like transparency and anyone can replicate this model and ongoing collaboration among researchers and practitioners. And our result shows that by combining demand and supply side interventions, it provides the least cost pathway to meet the growing demand, and it ensures the reliability, and also it reduces the capacity needs, it reduces the land footprint, it reduces the financial resource mobilization requirements, it ensures affordability of power, and it reduces the CO2 emissions from the power sector. Now, let's have a look at the framework. So I'm showing this framework from Thailand perspective. So let's say what we want to do is a clean energy transition. So if you look at the left top, where say a country has its generation fleet based on say coal, based on oil, based on gas, and other fossil fuel sources. So we want to move away from these fossil fuels towards renewables like solar and wind, like clean sources like nuclear, like biomass, right? And we want to include the storage into the system as well, and that energy efficiency into the devices, as well as some demand side flexibility. And we talk about demand side flexibility to ensure that we can utilize the best from solar and wind. So our intention on demand side flexibility was from the evening load, we would like to shift say a certain percent of the load towards the available when the solar and wind are more available. So we would like to shift some of the load there so that we can avoid the curtailment from the system. Now, how do we model it? Say, first we need the inputs. So for our model, let's say, what are the inputs do we need? First, we need the details of the power plants of that country. So when you say the power plant details, what we mean is you need the power plants, the capacities and the fuel types, the efficiencies, the capacity factors, their locations, their geolocations, and their lifetime, if there is any retrofits into their system. So all these power plant details of a country level, we gathered. And then we try to see that what are the renewable energy potentials. So in the PyPSA framework, we use the ERA 5 reanalysis data that talks about that provides us the renewable energy potentials for a country. It is like for our modeling, we have used like solar, wind, and that winds includes both onshore and offshore wind. And then we need the detailed transmission line data of a country. And then what are the substations and their connections. And then you need a certain assumptions, economic data like cost, the capex of these power plants, the fixed and variable operational and maintenance cost. So and these technological costs, the price of fuel. So whenever you have all these as cost assumptions and power plants data and transmission data, renewable potential, so your input part is ready. Now, as we say that we set some operational constraints, which are the policy. So it's time that we develop a certain number of scenarios. So first, before we run the model, we need to validate or calibrate our model, right? So in case of our modeling, we have choose the 2019 as the base year or the validation year, because the 2019 was the pre-pandemic year and the power sector was growing in its regular pace. So we have taken this year and we tried to validate our model. For Thailand purpose, we found that there was around 2.5% of mismatch into the modeled value and the actual value, which was really close. And then we have set different scenarios. While we set the scenarios, we have taken both pledges where the government has committed through its different policies that what is a country's target in different years in long term and short term. Say in 2030, as we said, that Thailand has a target of 30% renewable. So we have taken that, and Thailand has energy efficiency targets from demand side. So we have also included that demand side into our system. So Thailand has policy that by 2036, it has a certain amount of energy efficiency target. So for 2030, how we have taken is we have calculated from 2015 to 2036 that how much year by year the efficiency should increase. And accordingly, we have implemented that demand side energy efficiency. And also we have included demand side shift in one of the scenarios where we have shifted 10% of the load towards when the renewable energy was more available. And also we have implemented for Thailand one regional cooperation where we say that Thailand might import hydro from Laos and Malaysia. So like that, once you have your scenarios, the constraints are ready, it's time to run the model. So the model is optimized with the Gurobi optimizer. We use the academic version, and then you have your output. So what we can see from the outputs is the capacity expansions and that electricity productions and dispatches, the balance between load and supply. And we can also quantify from these results the generation cost, the impact of employment creation, the land footprint, and also we can see what are the different stages, the decommissioning of power plants, so that we can identify that if there is any fossil fuel based plant exist, what is their stranded assets. Those also can be quantified through the output analysis. So let's see that what are the scenarios and how do we do that. For Bangladesh, we did around 8 scenarios. Included one was reference scenario. So when you say it's a reference scenario, basically we represent a 2019 policy frozen scenario, and also 2019 was our model validation year. So let's say if we talk about a particular year, let's say about 2030. So what we did is in 2030, we have 3 scenarios. One scenario that includes only the government pledges, like say 30% renewable capacities, and Bangladesh also targeted
I think we lost Firuz. Maybe there is a network glitch or something. So let us. Yeah, I think Firuz is back. Okay, let's get back.
where did I get lost exactly? In after which slides? Can anyone confirm me?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
I think Yeah, in the
In the
scenarios,
slide.
slides.
Here?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I think there was an internet issue.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah.
Okay, let me just quickly recap that what I said in here. So how did we design the scenario? So basically, we have a validation scenario for the 2019, and then we have some reference scenario, which we also call 2019 policy frozen scenario, so that we can identify that if the pledges were not met or if the higher action scenarios are not taken, then how the power sector trajectory looks. So for example, if we look at the year 2030, you see that we have three scenarios basically. Scenario 1, which is a 30% renewable energy expansion. Scenario 2, on top of scenario 1, we include 20% energy efficiency. Now, both of these scenarios are placed action scenarios because government has their own target that in 2030, 30% renewable and 20% energy efficiency should be there. And we can also compare these results with the 2030 reference scenario if these are not met. Similarly, for 2041, we target, government has a target of 40% renewable energy. We call it placed action scenarios. Or then we added 33% demand side energy efficiency. These 33% has been taken based on year by year increase up to 2030, and then we have calculated and saved the value. Similarly, in 2050, we have around 4 scenarios where we have only 100% clean energy scenario based on supply side only. Then we have a combination of both demand side and supply side, and we have a combination of energy efficiency and demand side shift. So this is how we basically design our scenario. For Thailand also, the similar process, government has their own targets. So accordingly, we have taken where we have higher action ambitious scenario. We have increased the penetration of renewable energies and energy efficiency and demand side load shift by calculating from the placed years. So a similar process of setting the scenario targets. Now, let me give you a brief idea of what sorts of data do we need. Although we have mentioned during the methodological framework that what sorts of data we need, but I would like to name few of the sources from where we have taken that data. So shared socioeconomic pathway helped us to get the load data. Bangladesh Power Development Board, Bangladesh Power Generation Companies annual reports were a good source of assumptions for our model. OpenStreetMap helps us to validate the transmission networks, and IEPMP, which is Integrated Energy and Power Sector Master Plan. We have other policies like NDCs, Energy Efficiency and Conversion Master Plans, etc. So these are few of the government reports which helps us to take the proper assumptions, which are basically, country Bangladesh specific, so that our model, all the assumptions, all the values that we have taken are from different official sources of Bangladeshi reports. So similar has been done for Thailand, and for the Thailand, the major sources are EGAT, which basically controls the generation and transmission in Thailand, and 2 other sources are MEA and PEA, which are Metropolitan and Provincial Electricity Authority. So through these official sources, we have sourced our data to use in our model so that we can claim that our model uses the official data for both of this country perspective. Now, let's have a look at the results that while we are saying that integration of demand side is important, then why it is important. Let's have a look at the capacity expansion requirements. Let's talk about the scenario 5 and scenario 8, which are at the year 2050, where we target full clean energy into the system. If we see that while we integrate the demand side solutions into the system, the capacity requirement is around 46% lower compared with only supply side expansions. And we can see that although we talk about 100% clean energy, still a few of coal and gas-based power plants exist into the system. So these power plants are there because they have not completed their technical lifetime. So these power plants will be into the system as a stranded asset, and we need to basically compensate, or we need to very carefully thought that how we can mitigate these stranded assets. And we have a similar results for Thailand. We see that the demand side interventions helped us to reduce the capacity expansion around 44% in the year 2050. So our model has also one advantage, that we can map that where are the power plants located, the new installed capacity has been happened in which places, and we also map this with the solar and wind potential. So if you see that in Bangladesh, these are the two figures which shows the solar potential and wind potential. And if we look at the figure where the solar and wind generations, nuclear generation has been taken place, the model is basically taking the power plants where the resource availability is there. So this is also a confirmation the model is building the new power plants into the proper places. Similar results we do have for Thailand here, and here we have shown the potential as a potential of density, megawatt per kilometer square. So this is the offshore wind potential and the solar potential. And also if you see the map that where the generation has been taken place, it also follows the resource potentials. And then let's have a look at the financial resource mobilization. As we already have seen that when we include the demand side solutions with the supply side expansion, basically the capacity expansion gets lower. So the lower capacity expansion also require lower financial resource mobilization. And in terms of value, we see that around 43% lower requirement for Bangladesh, where in only supply side, you need around 258 billion euros of investment by 2050. With only with the integration of demand side, the requirement comes to around 144 billion euro. And we found similar results for Thailand as well. We see that the financial resource mobilization requirement comes down around 48% when you have your energy efficiency and demand side flexibility into the system. If we look at the land footprint, without demand side solutions, around 2.5% of Bangladesh's total land is required for the capacity expansion that from solar and wind. But when we integrate the demand side solutions, we see that the requirement comes down to only 1.32% of the total land. So there is a significant reductions into the land footprint as well. Now, as you know that Bangladesh is a densely populated country. Moreover, the economy also largely depends on agriculture as well. So potential collision between the agricultural lands and this renewable expansion could be a point of conflict. But as we have seen that by integrating the demand side solutions into the system, we really don't need that much of land. And through the review of literature, we have also seen that the amount of rooftop availables, if the floating solar is implemented, if the wasteland are utilized properly, Bangladesh doesn't need to collide with the agricultural lands. So those available areas would be enough to implement these sorts of solar implementation. Similarly, for Thailand, we found that including only supply side expansion require around 1.09% of country's total land. But when we include the energy efficiency and demand side flexibility, the requirement comes down to 0.61%. If we look at the potential of job creations in both of these countries, we found that by 2050, more jobs will be coming from solar and winds. And in Bangladesh, around 6.3 million new jobs is expected if we implement this 100% clean scenario. And we divided these jobs into three categories. One is manufacturing, construction and installation, operation and maintenance. So why we have divided these is because we are claiming that this much of jobs is coming to the economy, but it all depends that whether you are manufacturing those technologies or whether you are just commissioning and installing and taking care of the operation and maintenance, so that anyone have the idea that from which part how many jobs is expected. And if we look at the demand and supply side integration, it creates even more jobs. In case of Bangladesh, around 1 million more jobs is expected from the demand integration of demand side to the system. Now, there might be a doubt that whether your capacity is going down, then why the new jobs are more jobs are coming. So this is because that it is expected that if you integrate demand side solutions, more and more jobs is expected into the supply chain and also into the retrofits. So those gives additional new jobs into the system. A similar results is also seen for the case of Thailand. We see that when we include both demand and supply side, demand side solutions and supply side expansion together, the potential of new jobs is more into the system. Now, if we look at the affordability, the power generation cost in all three aspects, like the medium term, the short term, medium term, and long term, and if we compare the cost of power generation of with only supply side and an integration of demand and supply side, we see that the integration of demand side solutions into the system basically lowers the power generation cost. And in 2050, for the case of Bangladesh, we see that the power generation cost comes down to 49.39 euro per megawatt hour, which is even cheaper than the current generation cost. And for the case of Thailand, we also see similar results, that the power generation cost is coming down when we are implementing both supply and demand side together. If we look at the emission pathway, the red line here, it shows the 2019 policy frozen pathway. We see that if no policy is implemented by 2050, Bangladesh's emission can go as high as almost 200 million ton of CO2. The blue line that represents the supply side pledges and ambition pathway, it ultimately leads to net zero by 2050. But if we compare with the green line, which represents a combination or integration of demand side into the demand side as well as the supply side pledges and ambitious pathway, we see that in near term, we have lower emissions compared to only supply side pathway. So it gives us an idea that if we integrate both demand and supply side strategies into the system, it reduces the emission in near terms and ultimately leads towards the 100% clean energy system by 2050, and that is possible. And if we look for Thailand, a similar trend that supply side only planning has the potential to lead us to net 100% clean energy system with no emissions, but the integration of demand and supply side pledge has better results in near terms. If we look at the year 2030, 2037, 2040, 45, every time the emission is much lower compared to the only supply side solutions. And let's now talk about what are the key message from our findings. We conclude that the demand side interventions should be prioritized as a primary consideration in power sector policy planning, as we have seen the numerous advantages of these integration of demand side interventions. We say that the carbon neutrality targets for the national power sector can be reached better by strategically combined demand side interventions with the supply side. And these integration will help avoid excess RE capacity expansion plan. It will lower the total need for financial resource mobilization. It will reduce the competition for land. It will increase the overall employment potentials. It will reduce the generation cost, making the power more affordable. And it will generate less CO2 with clear near-term benefits. Now, what are our key contributions here? So the first problem while we were doing this modeling was the access to data. So we have lack of regional open source power sector databases. Like we don't have a single database where you get different power sector data in a good format. So what we had to do is we had to collect all generational details, which are the list of power plants, what are the fuel types, the technical efficiencies, capacity factors, when they are coming, different retrofits, the power plants which are in pipelines, their geolocations, and the capex. We have collected this from all the public and private generation entities, and these are validated with local experts both in Bangladesh and Thailand. We had to collect the local hourly data, the hourly load data. We had collected this through official communication. We received those data electronically and we checked and we validated with experts. And another problem was, sorry, not problem, but our contribution is modeled with features for demand side solutions. As we have seen in the literature review, not many of the studies has the demand side solutions into their models. So we have integrated the demand side solutions like energy efficiency and demand side flexibility. So through this integration, we found that the power sector can be even better modeled with demand side solutions. And the future research directions, we would say that integrate IoT-based demand side flexibility to utilize more renewable energies, model the grid stability and transmission expansion for better demand side managements. Sectoral demand and demand side solution technologies need to be featured more. When it's a sectoral demand, in our research we have used the total demand, not individual sectors, but more sectors can come to better analyze the system. Sector specific demand shift can be more realistically modeled. Introductions of heat pumps into the model, because in Thailand we have a few potentials of geothermal. In Bangladesh also there are some literature that claiming the potential of geothermal, so that can be used. The coupled economy-wide analysis system model for just transition assessments, and enhance the cross-sectoral data and open source regional cooperation to further refine the outcomes and further refine the framework. So by this, I would like to thank everyone for your attentions, and I would like to acknowledge the financial supports for our research from the EDITS project. And also I'd like to acknowledge the MCET projects, the fund from EDF for our capacity building in doing this modeling. So thank you everyone, and I'm happy to answer any questions or clarifications. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Firuz Ahmed Nahid. A very detailed and comprehensive analysis that you presented right now. And I guess the audience has many questions. So we are open for questions and comments. The audience can type in their questions in the Q&A tab, or you can also raise your hand and ask in person your questions. I see there are several questions already in the chat box. The first question is from Enrico Koeffler. Actually, he has two questions. The first one is, when computing costs, are you also considering the transmission infrastructure cost? How much does that voice change when you're going from supply side to demand and supply side interventions? And the second question is, are the renovation and demand side interventions costs also included in the total cost? Dr. Firuz.
Okay, so for the detailed transmission infrastructure cost, as we said, as part of our future research, we didn't include the detailed transmission infrastructure cost, but it was like a standard increase of transmission line. So detailed of transmission expansion was not included into this modeling. And I don't, okay. And the renovation and demand side intervention costs is also included. Basically, these costs were not included. We have the cost only included from the power plant side. So in terms of these, when we talk about the energy efficiency and demand side shift, we basically consider that with these interventions, the demand will be changed significantly, and we integrate that into our system. And the cost of the assumptions of power plants and other technical costs like their capex and their operation and maintenance costs, those remains the same. And when we consider efficiency and demand side flexibility, there is no additional cost we consider.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Firuz. I think there are some other questions. One of the attendees is asking, in the load side data, the electricity demand is just from residential sector, or it also include industrial load? Further,
So
what would be the role?
This is basically, okay.
Yeah, please continue.
Finish it. So the load data, as I said, the load data is basically the total load. It includes everything: residential, industrial, agriculture, service, all transport, all sorts of load together we have considered. And that's why in the future research scope, we said that the sectoral modeling could have better analysis, or it can analyze the model into the further extent.
Okay. And in the second part, what would be the role of energy trade required in Bangladesh and Thailand case studies? Energy
So
trade.
that's
Yeah.
that's a really good questions. But through our model, we really did not utilize a long cross-border power trade. That was not considered. But for Thailand case, we considered only a small amount of hydro, and we found that still that was not cheaper than solar, the local solar. So the hydro import from Laos and Malaysia that Thailand right now have. So the way we have implemented those into our model, we didn't find that that was reducing the cost a lot. That was just including as a fuel diversification, but not contributing much in terms of cost reduction.
Okay.
But if it is in a much larger scale, that then further analysis might be needed, and we have to see that how much that impact into the system.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, I also have a question of my own, if you don't mind. So coming from one of the developing countries you just presented. So my question is, how realistic is it to rely on demand side measures as a core strategy for decarbonizing the power system in emerging economies like Bangladesh and Thailand? And also, what
Well,
changes are
yeah.
yeah, please. I'll have a backup
Okay,
question. Yeah.
as you have seen throughout the results, as you have seen that while we are considering the demand side interventions into the system from all aspects, in starting from the capacity expansion requirement, as you know, both of these countries are developing countries, and especially Bangladesh has to depend on foreign direct investment for its renewable expansion. So that capacity, when going down, you have better option for negotiation for foreign direct investments into the power sectors. And if you look at the potentials of more jobs into the economy, if you look at the potentials of power generation cost reduction, if you look at the emission path trajectories, in every aspects, your demand side solution is giving you better results. So through data, we see that if we integrate the demand side solutions into the system, it gives us better results, and that gives us an idea that this should be a priority. And also Bangladesh and Thailand, both these countries has realized this, and they have their own pledges, as you have seen that by 2030 and 2036, both of these countries has their own targets of bringing up energy demand side energy efficiency into the system.
Okay. Yeah, so when you talk about like the job creation potentials, particularly with the notion of manufacturing within the country, right? So we see there's good potential both from Bangladesh and Thailand. However, did you consider the job loss due to the transfer from fossil fuel-based technologies to the
Yes.
renewables? Because yeah, please, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, if the references, if you follow the DOI that we provided in our publication, we mentioned about the potential job losses. So because we see that there are few of the power plants which will remaining in the system with their technical end of life. I mean, the lifetime was not done. So in case of those power plants, there is a potential that jobs will be lost, right? And in terms of other power plants, as many of the power plants will be automatically done with their technical end of life. So we did not consider those power plants as job losses because we consider that this power plant is done. So we have not considered for those as a job losses, but the power plants which we are considering as a stranded assets, we have considered those as a job loss. And when we calculate the total jobs, this total jobs is basically the contribution from the expansion plus the job that we have lost. So it's a combination of those.
I guess Professor Joyashree would like to
Yeah.
compliment.
No. I just see one comment from Benny in Q&A.
I guess we lost both Joyashree and Firuz again. Yeah, let's hope they will return soon. But I have another comment and question. Maybe I can read it out. So Abdullahi Muhuddin has a question. You included cost assumptions and a generation cost assessment in the framework. How do your scenarios incorporate technology learning rates and declining renewable costs over time? and how sensitive are the results to those cost trajectory assumptions? Okay, let's wait a few minutes. We are almost at the end of the session. We have around 5 minutes or so, but we, yeah, hope our presenters will be back soon. Yeah, anyway, that this is a very interesting presentation, and there are lots of issues that need to be analyzed in detail. I was also wondering, like, these lessons from Bangladesh and Thailand, both are noted as developing countries. Thailand is a mid-income country, but still, if this kind of analysis could be transferred to other countries pursuing similar low carbon power transitions, or even maybe it is possible to shift it to the middle income or even developed countries as well. So in edits, we have been talking about demand side measures for some time, and there are those are mostly focused on the developed regions, because once you have everything at hand, you can, think what to take and what to save for the future. But the countries which have still very low per capita generation and per capita consumption of energy and electricity in particular, it is sometimes difficult to have demand side measures other than energy efficiency and things like that, right? So I think in the panel, Benny is here. If you want to add a few questions or comments, or
Yeah,
anyone from the audience.
thank you, Jubair. I will just come in with a comment or a question that I wanted to raise to Firuz, and I think we can also say that if they do not make it back, it could be that they have internet issues, which often happens. And I see that both Firuz and Joshri have disconnected. Then please, to the audience, you can send them or ask questions, and they will be very happy to comment. And I see Firuz is back, so let me just repeat the question that I cannot put in the chat in the Q&A. It's very similar to what you said, Jubair, that it's amazing to see the impact of demand side, and especially the leveraging effect of demand side and the combination with supply. And I was wondering if this can work for Thailand and Bangladesh, whether this has a very local specific feature, or is this the local economy or the lifestyles, and whether this is applicable to other potentially developing or global south countries. I give the floor back to you, Jubair, and you can ask Firuz the remaining questions. Thank you.
Yeah, I think Firuz, you are back, and if you could respond to the latest question from Benny.
I'm so
And also,
sorry, my connection was, I don't know, somehow it dropped.
No, both of us lost the connection, which means something
from AIT, maybe something has happened to the server. If you don't mind, can you just repeat the question? I did not get it.
Yes, very happy.
The Benny's question. Yeah, so basically what it says is that how we have considered the lifestyle issues and the cultural factors and the differences in countries into the consideration. So Benny, basically we have taken the demand data, the hourly load data, right? And that really reflects the lifestyle of the people. And that considers that whole thing. So we can actually, in analysis part, expand these to bring in those questions which you were asking. But just as a modeling effort, the demand hourly load data, we can get actually the data, 15-minute data is also available for all these countries. So that is possible to show how the cooking practices are different, how the cooling practices are different, right, in the different countries, and that can be easily done.
Okay, thank you, Joshri. Yeah, and let us finish with the last questions, I guess. So the question is, how do your scenarios incorporate technology learning rates and declining renewable costs over time, and how sensitive are the results to those cost trajectory assumptions? Dr. Firuz.
Well, for the technological cost, as you have seen that our scenarios has of different years. So each of the years we have used different cost data. It is not like the same cost data that we have used in 2019 and we are using the same for 2050. It is not like that. So we have taken the technology declining cost, for example, for solar, for wind, for storages. So we have taken the cost data. Those are also from official reports. Some were given into the official reports, like for example, countries' national reports, and few were like the official studies, or like sometimes they do the feasibility studies of different technology adoptions. So from there, we have collected the data from different years, and those we have used. Regarding the sensitivity, we have not performed any sensitivity tests, but we just used the officially available public cost data for these countries of these technologies. So that is how
Okay,
we
great.
have, if we included these data into our models.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Firuz. And thank you to all the audience for your interesting questions and comments. I think it has been a very interesting presentation for us. If you have additional questions, please feel free to reach out Dr. Firuz directly, or you can also come to Write and Edits. So yeah, without further ado, let me finish this session for today. Thank you all. Have a nice day.
Thank you, everyone.